This is issue 17 of Avengers Volume 3, the 1998 series. This is the second of 3 fill-in issues written and drawn by Jeremy Ordinary. And issue 17 here is my favourite of his 3 issues. Simply because I think it is the best one. It has the best story. I like it more than the other 2. And something I do appreciate about his 3-parter is that there is an ongoing story, a continuing story, but this one still works as a standalone. If you just got this one, you have a story by itself here. There are bits of the overarching story. Thor has opened up a portal for his team to follow the Earthen Crew. The Earthen Crew were hired to kidnap Miss Marbles, Karen Daggers, before they ruined her by making her into smelly Brie Larsons. The Earthen Crew were confused by their orders and instead went after Captain Marbles, the real one, Monica Rambeau, because they thought that is who they were told to go after. After a fight with the Avengers, they escaped with Monica Rambeau to another dimension. Elsewhere, the Doomsday Man, the villain who gave the Earthen Crew their mission, he grew tired of waiting for them, so he took it upon himself to capture Karen Daggers when she was having a lunch with wasps. So the majority of our team, Thor, Captain America, Charlotte Witch, The Vision, Wonder Man, Dark Knight, and Firestar, they go after the Earthen Crew, and they won't be the focus of this issue. We are instead with the Avengers, not with them. Iron Man has taken the injured Major Victory back to base to give him a checkup. My least favourite part of the story. I mean, anything involving the 2 new Warriors characters in Avengers could class as that. But in this instance, what happened was Major Victory got in the way of Dark Knight, and Dark Knight accidentally hit him with the broad of his sword. It's at Avengers' house where Wasps shows up with her ex-husband in tow to report what she saw happen to Miss Marbles, that she vanished in a flash of light. And so we have a smaller team here of Iron Man, Wasps, Hank Gordon, and Major Victory, who is told that he cannot join them because guest starring Dr. Natalie Portwoman has forbid Major Victory from using his powers because he has a head injury and he might cause himself a brain hemorrhage. So, in his secret base, Doomsday Man as Miss Marbles, Karen Daggers, as his captive, and he has even outfitted her with the original Miss Marbles costume. Doomsday Man is in love, or thinks that he is in love, with Miss Marbles. There's backstory. We get the important bits here. He is an hard Miss Marbles enemy. But I am going to tell you about him and have some details that we don't have here. He first appeared in Silver Surfer, for example. Kind of. Doomsday Man. He first appeared in Silver Surfer 13. by Stanley Lee and Big Boy Buscema, brother of Little Boy Buscema. Some members of the United States government created an indestructible robot for space exploration, the Doomsday Man. Silver Surfman battled it. That was the basis of the first appearance. Silver Surfman fights an indestructible robot created by a paranoid government. Jump forward to Miss Marvel's issue 1. There is a mad scientist who hires Scorpius, and this is the guy who will be inside Doomsday Man eventually. That sounds like a sexual innuendo, doesn't it? He starts working with AIM, and he becomes interested by Miss Marvel's powers and unique biology. He becomes a stupid villain called the Destructor. He gets his arse kicked by her. And the more important stuff comes in issue 3, where we have the return of Doomsday Man. She fights the Doomsday Man in space. That's the issue, more or less. She fights Doomsday Man. It's just the robot at that point. She is fighting the indestructible robot from Silver Surfman 13. They even add some backstory that Karen Daggers was one of the military people who raised concerns about the Doomsday Man project. I don't find that too bad, honestly. Our writer is Christopher Clairvoyant, but I think giving Karen Daggers this one thing in her past isn't a bad thing. It's only when you keep having her have history with Wolfman or whoever that it becomes unbelievable and small universe syndrome. There is a science explosion, and it is that which somehow puts Destructor inside the Doomsday Man body. I didn't realise that this Jeremy Ordinary story is where the two characters were merged into one better character. Continuity snafu though. Avengers 288 accounted for Doomsday Man and pointed out that it was deactivated and destroyed. It feels like a lot of backstory, a lot more than is needed for this issue. What we have here, though, is more or less a Miss Marvel story. An issue about her. An issue with her and one of her ad villains. Or two of them. And we will come to his further appearances after this. But the Avengers, they are able to track down Doomsday Man because he draws so much from the city's power grid. And so we have Miss Marbles and the Avengers versus Doomsday Man. The Avengers fighting an indestructible robot. Hank Gordon exclaims, "That is an Avenger. You are mauling, pal." Which brings us to my next point. Karen Daggers suffers. She suffers in a completely unfair and spiteful way. And I'm not going to focus on the obvious thing, but rather what was the thing at the time. Kurt Busey, regular Avengers writer and supposed fanboy, took a character who had this awkward, unacceptable story and decided what he wanted to do with this character was make her worse. He made her an alcoholic, an irresponsible drunk. She is kicked out of the Avengers after 3 issues for being such a mess. Realistically, if you wanted to explore a trauma from Avengers 200, having her turn to alcohol could work. It's not flattering, but it is a valid way to explore or examine what happened to her. He wrote her out after 3 issues though. He made her look like dog shit. He had all the other characters refer to her like she was dog shit. And then he threw her out onto the curb like a piece of dog shit. His real motive was to have his favourite character, Iron Man, save her from her alcoholism because he's been there before. All of this sounds okay on paper, but it's Kurt Busey. He cannot write. He cannot write characters. He cannot write stories. Why he is doing something is always transparently obvious. All he does is drag Karen Daggers through the mud for a second time. And then, when he gets around to Avengers 200, he's doing a story where she has to forgive her rapist and work with her rapist and even learn to love her rapist. Kurt Busey never gave one shit about Karen Daggers, her traumas, or rape victims. He saw her as a piece of meat to facilitate pointless drama, bad stories, and writing up his favourite character. I could talk about him and his use of her a lot more, but I only need to establish what happened and my feelings to say that one thing I love about this issue is that it completely fucking washes away, maybe even ignores, most of Kurt Busey's characterisation of Miss Marbles. You could say this is bad for not having her be a drunken, unreliable wreck, and that it is bad continuity. They do mention her drinking, but fuck that. Let her have a story where she is not being abused by male writers who not so secretly think to themselves that she is a whore because she dresses like a whore. I have always felt attached to this character, this version of her anyway, before you know what, but she was in some of my first comics. She was in New Thunderbells. She guest starred in some of the first issues of that series. She's also in the issue of Avengers that I would point to as one of the best issues of Avengers ever, Avengers 172. I think that is like a perfect issue of the Avengers. I mostly liked 2000s series, which we will come to in a bit because Doomsday Man returns in that. It's just disappointing to see this is a character that very obviously was broken early on, and then everyone afterwards seemed to just want to break her even more and more until we got to a point where she was broken beyond repair. The rest of the team, the ones off on the other mission, they discover that the Urton crew escaped to the world of John Carter of Arse. I hope that intrigues you, because next issue is going to be all that. The Avengers fighting the Earth crew on Arse. I suppose the place is called Arse, since I call him John Carter of Arse. And we're not doing what else was out that week, because we have had this exact one before. All these comics, this order, it is identical to what ran in Excellent Force 91. All the same comics, verbatim. It's the same page. Scarlett Johansson 2, Cableman 69, Fantastic Force 19, Thor 13, Uncanny Excellent Man 370, and then that Avengers annual, which, well, I won't get into that again. Major Victory has snuck off to try and help the Avengers. And Doomsday Man is a very minor character, but I think he makes for an okay thing for the team to fight. And of course there is that added element of the villain having a fixation on one of the Avengers, which further makes Doomsday Man a good villain for an issue. The team, they work together, including Major Victory, to bring Doomsday Man down. And then Miss Marbles and the readers learn that Doomsday Man and Destructor were merged in that explosion. The Doomsday Man robot is like keeping him alive. It's like a life support system. And after this, he will return in Miss Marbles' solo series in the 2000s. I'd go as far to say it's some of the best issues of that series. The part I really like is that she curb stomps him and finally gets to call out and put her foot down on his obsession with her. There was some of that in this story that we just looked at, but I do prefer how definitive a rejection and defeat of him is in that 2000s story. That was his last appearance. The next page confirms he's not dead though. And here is our tease for next issue. Wreck-It Ralph and the Earth crew have taken over the world of Arse. I really like this issue. Miss Marbles and her stories are such a weird thing to evaluate now though. This is a character that bad writers consistently ruined over and over again. But along the way, you'd have these little ripples where Jeremy Ordinary would have a neat issue about her where he's not really drawn on any of the horrible stuff going on with her at the time. This is one of my favourite Avengers issues they have put out since 1998, or 1996, 1995, or whenever. It respects the Karen Dagger's character more than most the writers and the editors do. 7 thumbs up, Dave.